Good afternoon, everyone. Australian media claiming warmest July on record. Wait a second, Australian government just said it's second warmest July on record. Terrible drought. Haven't seen drought like this since 1895 to 1902. That was a low solar cycle era, and we are forecast to go below that. So when we look at where the drought's happening in Australia, and we look where the crops are being lost in Australia, this is going to continue because when we look at long-term trends in the couple thousand-year period, see that dark red on the right side where we are right now? Look back to the left and see where it was heated across the planet. It's a cycle. And Australia, they're taking gargantuan losses in their crops this year. You're definitely going to need to start substituting some of your own food. These vegetable and food prices are going to start skyrocketing at the end of the year. TrueLeafMarket.com. Seeds for anywhere you can grow on the planet. The Adapt 2030 link is below in the description box, as well as the link to the Tri-Weekly podcast, Mini Ice Age Conversations, where I was talking with Brad Buttrick in the latest episode about his new grow light designed for indoor agriculture. And do remember, if you have any tips, I only use this email right here, adapt2030@oilseedcrops.org. Let's get into the trustworthy media. ABC News, Australia records hottest July, warmest July on record, the BOM said. So then I went to the Bureau of Meteorology website and I looked at Australia, July 2018, second warmest on July. Now, I think the media misspoke there. I think they took that out of context, actually lied about it, and now here it is right in front of you. Also, continuing on in the Bureau of Meteorology, Australian government, average temperatures. So I circled in the box there to make it very easy to understand. Australia as a whole, the maximum temperatures were the second highest recorded. But then I want to take you over to the right where it says mean temperatures, because this is actually what the climate's all about. What the nighttime temperatures are, what the daytime temperatures, and get the average of the daytime's temperatures. And you take that over the month of the average of the day with the hot and the cold, highs and the lows, averages coming out to the mean. Fifth highest. And since I was in the BOM website anyway doing research for the video, minimum temperature anomalies, this is the 7th of August, just 2 days ago. 8 degrees Celsius below normal. Huh. Now on to the drought. I'm saying also the drought is cyclical based on sunspot activity. And as we get deeper into the grand solar minimum, Australia is going to suffer massive, incredible losses of everything that they grow down there, all crops. Talking about New South Wales, have not seen this low and this large of an area for the moisture precipitation since 1902, and then another instance 1965. And then they quote somebody, Gare Geese, who says droughts are getting hotter because the planet's warming. We'll come to that in a second. But what they do point out is a really good job here going back in history, taking us back to 1895 to 1902 when there was another terrible drought in Western Australia, Southern Australia, destroying crops. So I want to bring us back here to the sunspot activity. I put the yellow arrow in right in that exact area where they're talking about these same droughts in Australia, turn of the century, last century in the 1900 era. Very low solar activity. Now keep that in mind for just a second as we come into this grand solar minimum forecast. And they're trying to say, all right, as the drought takes hold, what's the best plan for Australian farms? Because this article is saying that by 2090 to 2099 that the temperature is going to be 4 to 5 degrees Celsius above. They have a nice chart here to show you where the rest of the planet's going to heat as well. Dry and wet, what they're predicting. So far, the IPCC's predictions have been pretty off the mark. So I would take this with a grain of salt. But when we're looking at the forecast going out, if that drought occurred during low solar activity, and we are planning a plunge into a 400-year lull in solar activity, what do you think is going to happen in that same area? Now, talking about back to the year 2090 that they said it will rise by 4 to 5 degrees Celsius. Well, this comes from Valentina Zarkova, Popov, Shepard, and Zarkov's double dynamo in the sun, canceling magnetic waves that's going to usher in this grand solar minimum. The bottom is where we are descending into. You can see right in the center of the chart there, the year 2000, and over to the right, that's 200 years into the future. And you're looking at the magnetic waves. That's what the blue and the red is there in the sun, the intensity. But as we come in, even out to later in this century, we are going to continue to get cooler. Now back to the low solar activity in circa 1885 to 1900, very low there. They talked about droughts in these exact same areas. This is definitely intensifying. Now, long before this article came out, even last year, I was putting this out as a map where the wheat growing regions in Australia are going to go offline. And it matches exactly where the drought is intensifying. It's not rocket science to do this. All I do is look back in cycles of history and look through the climate data going back thousands of years, taking a look at how they're reconstructing now with proxies, tree ring data, stalactites, pollen, lake core drilling sediment, reef cores, ice cores, and everything in between. And you can see on the right where we are, that hot red. Well, if you start looking back in the past and you go back even 800 or 1200 years ago, especially in Antarctica, look how warm it was compared to where we are now. And they're telling us the all-time warmest down in Antarctica. That is just not true. And when we come back through Europe, come back through Asia, come back through North America, I know Australia didn't have that much data, but there's a lot of reconstructions and proxies happening now. Cycles are repeating. But anyway, this comes out here South America, where we can see that the temperatures were below normal in the southern part of South America. And a shout out to John here, who sent me these images about the New South Wales ski fields. There's a massive front, could bring all-time record cold temperatures to Australia over the next 3 days, but this is just what's in the periphery of the storm. This much snow coming down already. It's going to be an exciting 3 days for Australia. Hang on. You're looking at least 70, 80, possibly 100 mile per hour winds with freezing rain. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. And I will be putting this up in a blog type of written format along with the images here. Steemit.com/adapt2030. Everything's going to be in a blog format on there.